Yo, what's going on, man? Today is let me do the intro over, man. Yo, what's going on? Today is October the 4th, 2023. It's your boy Chris, Crispy Capping, two P's, two N's. Today we're so yesterday we started off the official NBA team previews for the upcoming 2023-2024 NBA season. Yesterday we started with the Milwaukee Bucks, and we also talked about the odds for them to win the conference, them to win the championship. We also broke down the Western Conference team. We talked about the Denver Nuggets, the defending champs. So talked about those two teams. I'm excited to kick it off and talk about these two teams that we have on the slate for today, which are the Boston Celtics and the Memphis Grizzlies. Two teams a day until we get the season, underway. Tomorrow actually starts the NBA preseason. We have the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Dallas Mavericks are in Abu Dhabi. They play a game on NBA TV at 11 o'clock Eastern time. I did see a lineup for that game already as well. Probably not gonna bet it. That's some DGen stuff, but I'm probably not gonna bet it. But I do want to maybe give out a play or two for it. All I saw so far was a line over on Barstool. People have access to Barstool. I did see, I think the Dallas Mavericks might have been laying a point and a half, and the total was 230 and a half or something like that. Probably won't be any player props for games like that, but it's interesting stuff. So I say all that to say this. If you guys missed the show yesterday, you want to hear my insight about the Milwaukee Bucks, about the Denver Nuggets, definitely go back and check that out. It's posted on my page on YouTube. On my Twitter page, it's also posted on YouTube as well. And hit the like button for me if you guys can, man. If you haven't already, a lot of people are subscribed to the channel already, but always looking to grow, always doing free content as well, kind of catching people up and bringing them up to speed as we get closer to the season. So with that being said, turn the notifications on as well. Like I said, hit the like button for me if you can, subscribe to the channel, and let's jump right into it. So today, we talked about it already. Boston Celtics team up first. We're looking at a Boston Celtics team that has a price of about 200 to win the East, so 2-1, plus 200 for them to win the East. For them to win this whole title, the NBA title, and to be champions, plus 450. So yesterday we started off with the Milwaukee Bucks, and their odds to win the East, I think, was plus 180. So they have surpassed the Boston Celtics to take that throne. We know that the Boston Celtics have been the best offensive. They've been the favorite. They were the favorite last year. I want to say they were the favorite the year. Well, the Bucks were the favorite the year before, but this Boston Celtics team were the cream of the crop. And I'm pretty sure they have something to say about Milwaukee, dethroning them for having the best odds and being, quote unquote, on paper at least, the best team in the Eastern Conference. We also have them to win the title at plus 450. The odds for the Milwaukee Bucks we talked about yesterday were plus 400. So that is a little bit more of a better odds for them. And like I said, Milwaukee definitely is the favorite out of the Eastern Conference now. So breaking this team down real quickly, as I do for all these teams. And if you guys aren't familiar with the format, I'll talk about additions, I'll talk about subtractions, off-season notes for each team, a little bit of a recap for how the season finished, projected win total. We'll discuss that. I'll give my thoughts there. Talk about the strength of schedule, and there's some of the key numbers I'm kind of looking at, and key spaces I'm looking to spots I'm looking to kind of back this Boston Celtics team and all these teams that we talked about. So let's jump right into it with no further ado. Addition number one, and this team didn't revamp a lot. I mean, they got to the Eastern Conference finals last year, and of course they end up losing to Jimmy Butler and in the Miami Heat, but they didn't revamp a lot. Of course, you have Joe Mazzulla coming in as a second year head coach now with a year under his belt after the coaching change that happened there. You also bring in Kristaps Porzingis, which I think is a pretty big addition. I'll get into Kristaps Porzingis just a tad bit more in a second. But Kristaps Porzingis, who I think he'll play a big part for this team. I think he fits the system. He's somebody that can space the floor. He's somebody that can shoot the three. He's somebody that can rebound the ball. He also can play defense. They call him the unicorn for a reason. And then, of course, their latest new acquisition, the most recent one is Drew Holiday. We're talking about, multiple-time All-Star, first team All Defense. I want to say he got on his resume. Definitely a lot of second team All Defense. One of the best defensive point guards, one of the best two-way point guards that we have in the NBA. So Drew Holiday was last seen getting cooked by Jimmy Butler in the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs that I talked about last year. So I'm pretty sure, I think, at least anyway, I tweeted this out a couple weeks ago, I think Drew Holiday is going to have a big chip on his shoulder. I think Drew Holiday is going to come out with a lot to prove. And we'll kind of see how it goes from there, man. It's probably take a little bit of time for him to, kind of develop some chemistry with his team. But we'll talk a little bit more about Drew Holiday too. As far as subtractions for this team, they did lose Marcus Smart. Of course, Marcus Smart was in the deal that sent him to the Memphis Grizzlies, which we'll talk about. We got both Marcus Smart's teams here. We'll talk about Marcus Smart and him being an addition to the Memphis Grizzlies in just a few. But Marcus Smart is gone. Grant Williams is also gone. Grant Williams is in Dallas, actually in Abu Dhabi right now with the Dallas Mavericks that'll be taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves tomorrow. You also lose Robert Williams, which I think is a big, big factor. A lot of people don't understand the impact. You look at the numbers and, it's a drastic change. It's more than what people think, I think, and, as far as his impact specifically on the defensive end, his ability to be able to alter shots, block shots, rebound the ball, and just kind of deter players from wanting to even come down there in the paint. Of course, he was kind of hobbled last year. He was trying to, rev up towards the finals, towards the playoffs last year. Then you also lose Malcolm Brogdon, Sixth Man of the Year Malcolm Brogdon as well, in that trade for Drew Holiday, which it's going to be interesting to see if Malcolm Brogdon ends up staying on that team in Portland, or if they potentially, trade him and try to bring back some more assets. So we'll see how that goes. But I think that for me anyway, there's a key aspect in all of these especially these subtractions, right? I talked about Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon, Grant Williams, and Robert Williams. To me, this is the identity on the defensive end for this team. Boston was, a really great defensive team last year, specifically in the first half of basketball, and then they kind of let up in the second half a lot. But the number-wise, defensive rating, they were actually a 110.6, which was the second best defensive rating. I think they take a step back on the defensive end. I talked about this yesterday when I talked about the Milwaukee Bucks. Them losing some of their core defensive guys, bringing in a guy like Damian Lillard who can fill it up for sure, bringing in a guy like Malik Beasley who can go for 4 to 6, 7 3-pointers on any given night. But at the same time, you're losing your heart and soul, your leader in Marcus Smart. You're losing Grant Williams, Robert Williams, Malcolm Brogdon. These are all impact players on the defensive end for me. So while Boston will, I think, continue to be able to score the ball, I think they may struggle a little bit on the defensive end. Another year under the belt for Jason Tatum, who played magnificently last year. No real holes in his game. Jaylen Brown, of course, is now the most highest paid player in the NBA with the $300 million contract that he got to the Supermax deal that he got to stay in Boston. You have, Al Horford, who's going to be coming back. You still got Derek White. So the principles, I think, will still be the same. I just think that with Al Horford getting a year older, Drew Holiday getting a year older, I wouldn't say he's lost a step, but he's not the defender that he used to be. I do think that we see, just a tad bit of this team struggle a little bit on the defensive end and with their identity because of so much turnover, specifically with the defensive players. So I think that hurts ultimately. I don't know how good Boston is going to be, but I don't really. Then you also got to take into consideration Porzingis and his injury history. Granted, he played 67 games last year, which was the most games he's played since the 2016-2017 season. But it's going to be interesting to see if he can stay healthy 2 years in a row, because 67 games is a lot of games for a guy like Porzingis to play, being in Washington last year. So those are the additions and subtractions. As far as off-season notes, I kind of mentioned it. You bring in Porzingis. Missoula has another year under his belt. And I'm pretty sure Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum have been, in my estimation, they kind of are under the radar type of guys. They don't, they're not out here in the limelight, in the spotlight. Jason Tatum is always working on his game. I anticipate that he did the same, specifically after getting to the finals 2 years ago, of course, and losing to the losing to the Golden State Warriors, then not being able to even make it out of the Eastern Conference when they were projected to, last season. So pretty sure those guys are over there working really hard. I think the addition of Drew Holiday helps on the offensive end more than it helps. Well, it's going to help on the defensive end, but I think it ultimately, this is an offensive, kind of driven team, specifically in the first half when you see a lot of those 3-pointers kind of go up. Missoula has been famous for saying that, if they can shoot X amount of threes, then in his estimation, they're going to win the game because they're going to shoot it at X percentage, right? So this team, of course, finished first in their division last year, second best record overall in the Eastern Conference behind the Milwaukee Bucks, who finished the game ahead of them. They have a projected win total this year of 54.5. You look at what they did last year. They finished, let me pull it up real quick. I got it right here. They finished 57-25 last year. They were 25-16 on the road, which is a pretty good road record. One of the better ones I think it was actually tied for the second best road record in the NBA. But at home, they were 32-9, which is also one of the better records as well. They had a differential of 6.5 as far as points scored versus points allowed. They averaged pretty much 118 points per game, but we're giving up 111 in their category, which was actually the third most, the fourth most of the six teams that didn't have to qualify for the play-in game. So, like I said, defense kind of struggled. The numbers won't say that specifically, but I think for elite teams, I think their defense kind of struggled last year. So getting back into Boston, kind of continuing along. Boston is the 54.5 wins. I think it's right on par. It's not a number that I'm like, oh man, I think this is entirely too low, or I think this is entirely too high. Let me hit the under. Let me hit the over. When you're talking about unit betting, when you're talking about locking up your money for a long time, unless I see a significant edge, I'm not playing it. Injuries happen. That's one of the big things that kind of can set you back, and especially with people who have injury histories, like somebody like a Kristaps Porzingis. So not anything I'm rushing to the window to play. When I saw the win total come out, I was like, it's set appropriately. Can this team win 55 games? Absolutely. Would it surprise me if they won 52? Absolutely not. You also, if you bet the over on this win total, you're projecting that Porzingis is probably going to play a lot of minutes. We saw Al Horford start to rest last year on the second leg of back-to-backs. He rested a lot of those games. Now you don't have Robert Williams. You don't have Grant Williams. So you have a lot less flexibility to be able to throw in that lineup, specifically at the center position. It's going to be interesting to see if they end up making a trade for another big man, or if they end up trying to sign somebody like a Dwight Howard, who's currently a free agent in the NBA. So we'll see how that goes. What I had written in my continuing along that line, strength of schedule wise, they do have a pretty cupcake schedule. They have the third easiest schedule based on back-to-backs and the win percentage of their opponents. What I had written in my notes is that similar to Milwaukee, it feels like the Celtics also took a step back defensively and step forward offensively. And I kind of talked about this already. I alluded to it. Drew Holiday is a year older, a step slower, and was last seen getting cooked by Jimmy Butler. I love Drew Holiday to death, but Jimmy was giving him buckets and putting them in the basket in Game 5 of their Western Conference first round last year. Losing Grant Williams, Robert Williams, Brogdon, Marcus Smart, to me seems like a ton, not just a ton of points, but a ton of defense, a ton of heart and soul. So to me, Jaylen Brown, you're getting paid $300 million. You got to step up and be more of a vocal leader. And it felt like that's what this team kind of missed last year. Al Horford could do it at times, but you can't rely on Al Horford to be able to get the message through to especially some of the younger guys. Al Horford been playing basketball longer than most of these guys been like really playing basketball. So I think Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum got to become more vocal leaders, and we'll see how that goes. Bringing in a big like Porzingis that can stretch the floor, provide some rim protection when he's healthy. Porzingis did shoot 50% from the field last year, 38%, and 38.5% from the three last year. That's his highest field goal percentage of his career. So he's coming off one of his best shooting percentage for his career. and is third in his best 3-point percentage his last 5 years. So a healthy Porzingis can be trouble. We'll see how what that looks like. So those are my thoughts on the Boston Celtics. I'm not interested in playing any market right now. I think the lack of bigs and the lack of depth at the big position kind of scares me, especially if Porzingis get hurt. It scares me off of playing the overs on these win totals. It also scares me on even dabbling on, time my money up to play them to, on the season price as well to either win the West. To win the East or to win the championship. So those are my thoughts on the Boston Celtics. Anybody got anything they want to chime in? I'm gonna go through the YouTube comment section. If you're watching on Twitter or listening on Twitter, I should say, definitely leave me a comment and let me know what you guys are thinking. My guy Prolific said, so excited for NBA. We need new merch, Chris. My mom actually told me she needed some new merch. I'm probably gonna put an order in soon, man. I'll figure it out. I'll let you guys know if I come up with something. Malik said, what's going on? What's good, my guy? Hope all is well. Right back at you. Appreciate that. My guy, Dream in the building. Blood Money Bessie said, hit that like button for me. EQ, what's going on? Euphoria, appreciate you being here. Said another NBA season, another cash. Yeah, hopefully we get to it, man. Definitely trying to get to it. Porzingis threes are definitely a play. If he's healthy, though. I like that, Euphoria. I think, Jason Tatum. But Marcus Smart not being there anymore, Derek White is going to be the primary playmaker on this team, outside of Jason Tatum, of course. So we should see Tatum assists go up. We know that those numbers, he was doing a lot of facilitating in the Eastern Conference Finals, in the Eastern Conference semifinals last year. His assist number was typically like 5.5, 6.5. I do think Tatum rebounds. When you think about losing Grant Williams, you think about Al Horford being the only big left. I do think even though Tatum rebounds crept up to that 9.5 number in the playoffs last year, I do think that Tatum rebounds are going to be in play throughout this series as well. So I didn't really go through a lot of player props, but as we get close to the season, I'll definitely have some more information on that as well. Appreciate you guys for chiming in on YouTube. I don't see anybody rushing to unmute on or requesting up on Twitter, so I'm gonna keep it moving, and we're gonna kick it to the Memphis Grizzlies. So got the banner up for them as well. Memphis to me, feel like they're slightly getting disrespected. I know the Western Conference is stacked. We talked about it yesterday. Of course, you have the defending champs who didn't really lose any piece of their core other than Bruce Brown, but they still got their starting five. You have the Phoenix Suns who bought in Bradley Beal. That team is going to be completely stacked and going to be really, really good as well. Pretty sure they're going to give Denver a run for their money. I think I talked about this yesterday, but I think my Lakers did a really good job of panning out their roster, so they're not so LeBron James and Anthony Davis dependent. But also, there's other teams in the Western Conference that also got better. To me, it just feels like Memphis is the team that's kind of overlooked, and it may be because how they finished the season last year. So let's get into the Memphis Grizzlies. To win the West specifically, they're plus 1,400. This team actually finished second last year in the Western Conference, right behind the Denver Nuggets. So, and we got to remember, Ja Morant was suspended last year. Got suspended he's also going to start this season suspended as well, but he got suspended last year. You also had Jared Jackson Jr. A lot of people don't remember this, but Jared Jackson Jr. actually missed the first. I talked about this yesterday. Jared Jackson Jr. actually missed the first month, a little bit more than a month of the season. People don't remember that because he still ended up winning Defensive Player of the Year, but that set them back a little bit at the beginning of the season. I remember a couple games, but they actually lost to the Jazz at the beginning of the season, and they were missing Jared Jackson Jr. a lot. Of course, Steven Adams wasn't there. He missed a lot of time. They lost Brandon Clark. So getting all those guys back, right? You also think about the additions. You bring in a veteran leader, which that's really what this team needed because they didn't know when to shut their mouths last year when they probably should have, right? We find in the West, Ja Morant, then Dillon Brooks, which, we'll talk about the subtractions in a second, and Dillon Brooks not part of that team. But this team felt like they kind of needed to grow up, and they brought two OGs in to actually help with that culture shift, I think. Marcus Smart is definitely a leader in the NBA. He's a guy that's going to be able to replace Dillon Brooks as far as defending your opposing team's best small forward / shooting guard. If you need to, point guard as well. And then, of course, you bring in an OG like Derrick Rose that's also going to be, a secondary ball handler / contributor for this team that also brings in some of that OG veteran leadership that this team really, really needs. This team reeked of immaturity and not having vets, right? And I'm not saying like, the grittying and all that stuff on the sideline is not fun and cool and it's not marketable, because it is. But when they really needed it the most, we saw how this team went out last year. They got absolutely mollywopped by my Lakers in Game 5 or Game 6 of the semifinal. Well, that was actually the first round. No, was that the second round? The second round, because we beat Minnesota to get into. Yeah, so we saw this team go out. They got absolutely smashed, got de-throttled last year, in the playoffs. So you bring in Marcus Smart, you bring in Derrick Rose. I think those are two really, really good moves, especially when you think about Steven Adams coming back. You think about a healthy Jared Jackson Jr. You think about a healthy Brandon Clark. This team has one of the best front lines in the NBA outside of maybe the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis and Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez, right? So they'll get all those guys back. They'll be, healthy again. And I think, like I said, this to me, it feels like the Memphis Grizzlies might be the slept-on team out of the Eastern Conference, out of the Western Conference. And I think this year they're going to put their head down and go about their business the right way, not necessarily bragging and boasting and doing all the crazy stuff that we've seen them do in the past. I listened to the podcast with Paul George, Playoff P, and Jared Jackson Jr. was on there, I think, sometime in June. And he talked about how they really felt that like they got gut checked last year. They felt like they got to get back to the drawing board. They got to get back to the grind. And it can't be all this, flash all the time. So that's what I'm expecting from this team this year. Of course, Ja Morant, I mentioned this already, but he was suspended 25 games at the beginning of the season for the display of the gun. They're not playing with him no more. So I think, it seems like at least he's taking accountability for that. And hopefully that's the last time we see, anything like that, because it's definitely killing his money overall, just because he won't be eligible for, all-star team or any of that type of stuff, first team all NBA. Like he can't be awarded those specific categories, because you got to play 58 games in the NBA to be even considered for those markets. So hopefully, if Ja Morant comes back with his head on, he can blend well with Marcus Smart. I think this team is good enough, especially defensively. We know what they did at home. It's one of the better home teams in the NBA over the last 2 or 3 years. Always start off fast. You do lose Dillon Brooks, who didn't shoot the ball well last year, but somehow killed USA in the FIBA World Cup World Tournament thing over the summer. But outside of Dillon Brooks, you also lose Tyus Jones. The Tyus Jones loss is not as big of a loss because you bring in Marcus Smart, in my estimation. But that is, a bit of a concern, I guess, because he's such a pure point guard. Marcus Smart can be that pure point guard, but we know sometimes he can be more scoring oriented. I think that he'll try to come in and gel with this team, and the loss of Tyus Jones won't hurt them as much. But Tyus Jones, let's make it very clear. Tyus Jones is one of the best point guards we have in the league, let alone one of the best backup point guards we had in the league. So I'm excited to see what he's able to do in Washington as well. What else I got for you guys? So I talked about the 30-point shellacking that happened at the end of the Western Conference Finals. And really, like I said, it was a lot of injuries, right? Jared Jackson Jr. was there, but he had no help on their front line. With Steven Adams being out, and of course with Brandon Clark being done for the season as well. This team has a projected win total of 45.5. Now, like we talked about, of course, Ja Morant won't be there for the first 25 games, but 45.5 to me in a stacked Western Conference, I get it. To me, it still feels a tad bit disrespectful, being that this team won 51 games last year, right? Sacramento's still going to be good. Do they win 48 games? I'm not 100% sure. Phoenix will be good. They won 45 games last year. But the Clippers, right, the Golden State Warriors, the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Pelicans, maybe that number is about right. But it's going to be a lot of jockeying for position, I think, in this Western Conference. And to me, it feels like Memphis won't be a team that's going to be slighted at all, and they're going to take advantage of their opportunity. So maybe the numbers are a little too close for comfort. But if I had to bet it, gun to my head, I'm taking the over on their win total. I think this team does go over the 45.5 wins, but it's nothing that I put in my pocket. As far as the schedule, I haven't checked into the back-to-backs and the third and fourth nights and all that good stuff, but that's not something that really influences Memphis a lot because they are so young. That's more so geared towards the older teams that have the the veterans on their team. So 12th most difficult schedule in the NBA. And then what I had in my notes as far as like finishing it up is all of the key rotational pieces are still intact outside of Dylan Brooks, outside of Tyus Jones. Smart is what this young team without a sense of leadership needs the most. And I talked about it. Steven Adams, Jared Jackson Jr., didn't even mention Desmond Bane, who just got a $200 million deal. Brandon Clark, all of those guys are coming back. I think they'll exceed expectations this season without the Bulls out on their back because they're not going to be going around, flaunting themselves, saying, we're fine in the West. I think they're just going to put their head down and actually grind out, right? It's grind city for a reason. I think they grind out this year and kind of subside all that noise that they were making last year and kind of, patting their own chest. So those are my thoughts on the Memphis Grizzlies, man. I didn't break it down from a player prop perspective at all quite yet. But of course, it's going to be some ways to make money with Memphis. In the past, we've made a lot of money with Memphis first quarter team total over. It typically feels like they were one of the better teams in the first quarter. Matter of fact, let me pull it up because I do got the numbers right here. First quarter against the spread last year, this team actually was the best team in the league. 50, 30, and 2. Two draws or splits, you could say, but 50 wins in the first quarter, 30 of them, 30 losses and 2 ties. At home, they were 27, 13, and 1, which was the best ATS record at home in the first quarter as well, and 23 and 17. So even on the road, they typically started off pretty hot as well. They were also, let me see, first half, because it typically continued 50, 31, and 1. So team that kind of came out, hit you first and wasn't really waiting to be punched at all. So that's the way we've been playing Memphis. First quarter, looking at them first half as well. So that's what I kind of got for the Memphis Grizzlies. Anybody got anything they want to contribute on the Grizzlies? Definitely speak up. Let me know your thoughts. Send me a request if you're listening in on Twitter. And then, of course, I'm going to go through the comment section as well over on YouTube. Let's see what we got. No cap. Let's really talk about the Suns team. Total wins over. Okay, Euphoria. We're gonna get there. I think the Suns might be. Let's see. So tomorrow we're doing Philly and Sacramento, and then Cleveland and Phoenix will be on Friday. Cleveland and Phoenix will be on Friday because Philadelphia and Sacramento will be tomorrow. And if people trying to figure out how I kind of tiered these teams. I just went team that finished with the best record in both conferences. Eastern Conference first, Western Conference second, and then I'm just going all the way through till I get to the end. So it'll be the worst two teams, the teams with the worst 2 records at the end, which will be the last day before the regular season starts. So we'll get there. We'll definitely get there. DFS LFG says, do you think who do you think leads the Celtics in assists this year? I think it'll be Derek White, but one thing we know about the Celtics is they that ball kind of pops with the Celtics, right? Like they are a team that, like if you don't got a good shot, you just swing it, right? You swing it to another teammate. If they don't got a good shot, they swing it, right? And I think that was kind of I think Udoka kind of set that, he kind of set that precedent for this team that we're not going to be selfish. We're going to share the ball. It doesn't matter who gets the shot as long as it's a great shot, and we'll shoot that one and we'll live with the results. The assists were kind of spread out last year. Marcus Smart did lead the team with 6.3, but Tatum was at 4.6, and you saw that number increase in the second half of the season. Derek White was at 3.9. We should see that number increase without Marcus Smart and without who am I missing? Marcus Smart and Malcolm Brogdon. That number should increase for Derek White because Brogdon ended up being fourth on the team. So the number 1 and number 4 guys both left, but there was a lot of kind of passing along. Jaylen Brown actually averaged 3.5 assists, and maybe that's what he's been working on throughout the postseason, throughout the the offseason, is just trying to, hopefully he working on that left hand, because the boy can't go left to save his life. I never seen nobody get 300 million that can't go left, and I love Jaylen Brown to death, but he could not go left. So we'll see what that looks like. When the pressure get hot, you just send them left, and turnover waiting to happen. Euphoria says Drew easy over an assist. Man got like I'm forgetting Drew Holiday. Of course it's gonna be him. Drew Holiday gonna lead this team in assists. He shot a ball in his hand the most. He's also proven to be unselfish as well. I forgot. I just mentioned Drew Holiday. Yeah, Drew Holiday will lead this team in assists. He shot a ball in his hand the most as well. Man got like 10 a game in the playoffs. Drew got MVP ability. I don't know if his role gonna be big enough on this team for him to have MVP ability. We'll see how it goes though. Lakers smoked that job pack for real. They definitely did. They got them boys out the way for sure. Malik mentioned what I mentioned. He said Tatum's rebounds too. Yeah, that's what I was looking at. Tatum rebounds for sure. I think we always got to look at Tatum rebounds to potentially go over, especially on this team. Like I said, they lost a lot of size. So I think Blake Griffin might be coming back. Even then, he still didn't play a lot of minutes. Sam Hauser, Luke Cornett, those guys will get more burn. I want to say it was Sam Hauser, who was actually spreading the floor. So if he can play defense, I think he's going to be on the floor a lot more. We'll see how that goes. Marquise, you up, man? How you doing? How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing well, man. Fan of the show. Good props you give out all last year. Let's cash again. Player I'm looking at this year, Desmond Bane. Just got the big contract. I believe he goes up. I think with Marcus Smart and Derrick Rose there to help facilitate, that he doesn't have to come in and play that backup point guard. Not really that he played backup point guard, but when Ja was out, Tyus Jones and him kind of split. So I look for Desmond Bane to get a little bit more open shots, especially with Steven Adams returning back. What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think he's a role player guy in my estimation, Marquise, but he also can go get a shot, right? So I think he confines to the system as much as he needs to. If he needs to be the lead man, I honestly feel like Desmond Bane still, he hasn't even reached his prime yet, right? His ability to be able to put the ball on the floor, get to the rim, use his size, right? This is a big, stocky, like almost fullback. When he gets the ball, he can kind of cradle it, right? Get to the rim, knock you off your spot and, make for an easier layup. He's also sneaky athletic as well. And we know what kind of ratchet he got as far as being able to shoot the ball from three. So I would agree. I think he also picks up the scoring without Tyus Jones being there. At the beginning of the season, they won't have Ja Morant. So I would absolutely agree with that. It could be a low spot on his points, Marquise, at the beginning of the season without Ja Morant being there. They didn't get a lot of scoring. They'll get Steven Adams back, of course. They'll get Brandon Clark back, but you're losing Dylan Brooks. You don't have Ja Morant to start the season. You also don't have Tyus Jones. So I think a lot of those scoring duties will, be distributed to him specifically at the beginning of the season without Ja Morant. So I would be with you there. I'm glad you asked that question because it made me kind of think about it a little bit more. Definitely appreciate your thoughts as well. Black Thor. Now, Marquise, you finished or you got something else?
No, I'm done. I was saying no problem, man. Thanks.
Okay. No, absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate you requesting up and, pointing that out. I'm making notes of all the things that we kind of talk about during the shows as well, because that way I don't have to go back, especially when I'm thinking about teams and y'all thinking about players, It's all about kind of rubbing elbows and rubbing shoulders with some of the smarter people. And if, y'all got ideas and I got ideas, we put them together and we all kind of cash together. So I love that. I love that for sure. Black Thor, what's going on, my guy? You was here yesterday. What's going on? How you doing today?
Yo, Chris, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm good, bro. Talk to me. What you got?
Oh, man, so two things. Not really anything on props wise, but as far as a team perspective, first with Memphis, and then I got a double back on Boston. I just probably say the biggest thing that Memphis is getting is Steven Adams, right? We talked about the playoffs in the Lakers series. Just saw Davis, LeBron, just multiple team players on the Lakers in the playoffs, just towards the second half of the season, just getting smoked on the glass.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing, and this is probably the bigger thing to me, is Jaren Jackson. So there was a quote that Steve Kerr was trying to get to Jaren Jackson about, hey, listen, I know you play aggressive, but we need you on the floor. And I don't know if it was an official quote, but it was something to the lines of, hey, I want Defensive Player of the Year playing my style, but it was totally missing the point where it's like, you got to stay on the floor. And, I never seen a guy that won Defensive Player of the Year and also fouled out as many times. It's kind of like an interesting thing.
That's a fact.
But the other thing is, offensively, is he has to get other shots than just spot up three-point shots, right? As a 6'9" power forward, I get that Steven Adams is in the paint and get kind of, tough with spacing-wise, but you got to hunt better shots and just I just can't stand up all the time, just shooting threes, spotting up. You're 6'9". You got a pretty solid handle for your size. You can get some push shots, some floaters. You have to mix up your game, because if you talk about whenever they get their full team back with Morant and Bane, he's the other guy that kind of brings them to another level, especially when you play teams like the Warriors. So it's really just, with me, him staying out of foul trouble and the return to Adams. Adams is a cash cow, rebounds. I think Charlotte, he had like 20. Every night you get him on there, he's going to rebound. So those are the two. Front court stability is, to me, what takes Memphis to the next level. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm looking at the numbers right now, Black Thor, because I think you can kind of put it in perspective based on pre All-Star and post All-Star. And before the All-Star break, when they, Jared Jackson Jr. came back, and he's not the greatest rebounder, but he is a shot blocker. But they had Steven Adams during that time, and this team was actually the 5th best rebounding team in the league. I want to look at the number real quick and just compare it to post All-Star break, and see where they finished, because I can guarantee you it probably wasn't top 5. And I am right. They actually finished. Wow, they finished 24th. So it was that big of a jump of a drop without Steven Adams. They were a top 5 rebounding team in the league for the first half of the season, and then after the All-Star break, they actually finished 24th. And that's exactly what it was. Because when you can control the Memphis Grizzlies also weren't a team that necessarily you want to run a lot of their offense in the half court. They like to get out and run in transition as much as they possibly could. And I think when you're missing shots because your half court offense isn't the greatest, you do rely on guys like Steven Adams to be able to get you second chance opportunities. So that's an excellent point by you, Black Guy.
Yeah, real quick on the Celtics. 3 things. One, I was listening to Bill Simmons' podcast last week, and he was saying that there's a lot of eyes on Mazzulla, which I got to talk about. He's a fine coach, but the position at his end is really tough. And, a lot of times in the playoffs and even during the season, we would look like, I don't know about Mazzulla. And so you think the guys that left with, sometimes there was reports that he got into it with Marcus Smart. And, with that, and also the Brogdon loss, because I think Brogdon actually got upset that he was in trade rumors. So I thought that was really interesting. And then Jaylen Brown, like you said, he talked about it earlier with the left hand. If you can get $300 million with the right hand, you're a bad man. He kind of does this inside-out dribble where he's going way too fast and he loses the ball. He does it so much. He just starts dribbling fast and he loses the ball, or it's in transition. Sometimes he does this thing where in transition he's running on a 1-3 break, and he has success again, but it's really just about, picking his spots, man. So him and Tatum, in the playoffs, their turnovers get way too high, so definitely better ball security. Porzingis. So I don't know how to feel about Porzingis. On the one side, that top of the key 3 that Al Horford shoots, Porzingis will hit all day. He can hit 5, he can hit 8. But Porzingis is kind of shaky. He's not really, it's not about his talent, it's about what was demanded of him. So if you look on Washington, he had a really solid year. Washington wasn't winning a lot of games. Kuzma and Porzingis, they was getting busy with the stats, but he's solid. But I kind of question him in a bigger role with, maybe the ball less, spot up shots. It'll be interesting how he plays from it. And then the other thing is with Horford and Porzingis as your front court, that is really shaky as far as depth-wise. Every year, Al Horford, to me, overperforms what he does in the regular season and the playoffs.
That's a fact.
And that's just a lot to ask from a guy. Like you talked about the back-to-backs. To me, I don't even know if Al Horford starts. I would just say, hey, Tatum and Brown, y'all going to play the 4 most of the season. We got to really manage Al. But then that puts everything on Porzingis, and I can't depend on him either. So it's a really extremist thing the Celtics are doing, where I look at the last 3 years and I don't know if I like this team better, but it's definitely a different dynamic. And then the last thing with Robert Williams, I think they made a decision based off of, every year we got to the finals, but we got close, that he was hurt and kind of banged up. It's they probably moved on because they said he just wasn't there, People say the best ability is availability, but I don't always agree with that, because the best ability is talent. You got to play first and then to be available. And so it's tough to rebound with front court presence, a lob threat. He did a lot of things that people kind of took for granted that most basketball fans did. But I'm really kind of meh on Boston. They got a great team. Tatum and Brown always play well to win games, but it's certain moves that, I'm just 50-50 on.
Yeah, Black Thor, I mean, we agree. I agree with you on a lot of those points. I don't know if you came in at the very beginning, but I talked about, if this Boston Celtics team doesn't revamp or, reassure their front line, it's going to be tragic, man, because, Grant Williams is only about 6'8", but he plays a lot bigger than, his stature, right? And you have Robert Williams and Al Horford lost a step, and now you're bringing in Porzingis, who, like I said, played 67 games last year, the most games he's played in about 6-7 years. But we can't rely on that. You know what I mean? So I would be surprised. I would really be surprised if they don't go out here and get one of these big men, to kind of re-up that front line back there, because they're gonna need it. You don't want Tatum and Brown taking a beating trying to guard some of these bigger 4 or 5s, right? Like what are they doing when they got to play against Philly, right? Al Horford gonna do it all by himself? I don't know about that. I don't know about that, Black Dog.
Real quick, one last thing. I don't know what your thoughts on the. I believe this is the first season with the NBA in tournament season, and I think there was also a rule. I think the players and the governors board had kind of agreed on not playing two stars resting at the same night. I'm pretty sure on both of those. I thought it was interesting. If you put an in-season tournament in the league, I kind of think the de-emphasis on the regular season got a little too far, where it's about playoffs. But people still pay tickets to see games, and it's still entertainment and a business. So I just kind of want to get your thoughts on that.
No, absolutely, Black Dog. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you bringing both of those up. And I agree. I agree with what you said. I think the emphasis on the NBA, the regular season's gotten kind of watered down. Players want to get their numbers, and players want to get their numbers so that they can get the bag, right? And it feels like, you just kind of, Trae Young came out and said it a couple years ago. You just kind of, loft through the regular season. You sit out games. It's a long, grueling, situation. And then you also got the team doctors in your ear saying that science says that if you rest, one game every 2 weeks, or, whatever the case might be, or 3 weeks, then, your body will be in top tip shape. So even some of these players who want to play, it's been some pushback from the players saying like, nah, we want to play. We just can't go play, right? Like they're suggesting and recommended that we not play. So I think that's the reason. But you pointed it out perfectly. I think you did a great job of explaining it. It's really that if you've made an all-star team, I think in the last 3 years, or you're an all NBA player in the last 3 years, and it's 2 on the same team, a la Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, you will be fine for one those guys missing time on the second leg of a back-to-back, unless there's some kind of clause that like, if I forgot exactly what it is, I'll have it for the next show, but it's some kind of clause where you can kind of get away with it every now and then. But doctors gonna have to really, if the teams don't want to take these fines, the doctors gonna have to prove that these players like can't perform for whatever reason, that they are hurt. So we'll see how that goes too. But those are excellent points. The tournament, like you said, Black Thor, I think like I said, to me it comes from a lack of engagement. It comes from a lack of engagement for the teams and taking these games serious. So this gives you something, the fan, to look something to look forward to. Gives the teams and the players something to actually play for at the beginning of the season as well. So I think it'll be pretty cool. It might be, it might take a while to kind of catch on. But I think it's going to be really cool. I know the players are coming into training camp. They don't even know what the rules. They don't even know, right? They don't even know exactly what's going on themselves. So it's definitely going to be interesting for sure. And I think it's going to be a way for us to kind of, make some money as we get closer to that time, because we'll see who's healthy. We'll see who, is taking the regular season serious from the beginning, right? Like you could go back and kind of track how these teams are playing at the beginning of the season. How, like, do they perform well? Does it take them a while to kind of get going? I went and looked at it earlier through the month of through the month of November last year. All the teams that didn't make the playoffs were already losing teams at the beginning of the season. I'm talking about the Wizards. I'm talking about the Charlotte Hornets. I'm talking about who else was it? It was a plethora of teams. The Utah Jazz. Well, the Utah Jazz actually were one of the better teams at the beginning of the season, but those teams that really didn't do anything at the beginning of the season, Portland Trail Blazers, like those teams also sucked at the beginning of the season last year as well, and already had a losing record. So you can tell a lot about a team and how, whether they're taking the series. The San Antonio Spurs, another team that come to mind. Whether they're trying to be good, or whether they're just kind of coasting and looking to just kind of develop their players. So we'll see, man. We'll see. Like I said, tomorrow And I appreciate everybody for chiming in today. Tomorrow, we'll get into the Philadelphia 76ers. James Harden did report the training camp out in Colorado today. His first time being with the team after, requesting a trade. So we'll see what him and Daryl Morey and, Tyrese Maxey, and I'll talk about Joel Embiid and what their chances are in the Eastern Conference. The Sacramento Kings are another team I feel like they're slighted just a tad bit that I think is going to get a little bit better. And I'll give you guys more of a reason and kind of break that team down tomorrow as well. I appreciate everybody for tapping in. If you're still watching over on YouTube, definitely hit the like button for me if you guys can. Subscribe to the channel as well. And turn the notification bell on. I appreciate everybody for tuning in with me, man. I'll be back tomorrow, 5:15 again. We'll break down 2 more teams, man. Best of luck. Anybody got any MLB action for tonight? And I also have I'll give a couple NFL plays for Commanders and the Bears tomorrow as well. Y'all be good, man. Have a good night. I'm out.